I want to thank the AAM for the opportunity to come today here and share with you some thoughts and some ideas about the fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0. Let me start by asking, has anybody heard this term before? Industry 4.0? Industrial revolution? Yeah, okay, 1, 2. It's interesting. It's such a hot button topic right now. It is something that we're immersed in, but very few people are actually aware of it. The term fourth industrial revolution came up at the Davos meeting, and all the major powers of the world get together and discuss about economics and the future. This came up in 2016, and that's where the phrase was first coined to explain a movement of what's happening right now. We've had several revolutions, industrial revolutions in history. Okay? The first one came with steam. In England, in Europe, back in the 1800s, with the invention of the steam engine and all that, and that created a first industrial revolution where everything began to be mechanized, and we started moving things by the power of water. Then we had the second industrial revolution, with Henry Ford and mass production, and that's where we went into electrical power. We did a change from steam to electrical and other sources, but it's basically about mechanization of things, about not automation, but mechanization, production lines, all that. Then we had the third industrial revolution, where everything started becoming automated, and we were talking about computers. Okay, so it was a revolution of information and systems. And right now, we're in the middle of we're just beginning, but we're immersed in the fourth industrial revolution, which is unique because it is a mixing of virtual, cyber, and physical environments. Okay? So what's happening right now? The fourth industrial revolution, or Industry 4.0, is the intersection of advanced disciplines, a very accelerated intersection of advanced disciplines that is blurring the lines between what is physical, what is virtual, what is biological, and what is not. So what's happening is amazing. It's a little bit scary, a little bit exciting, and a lot of uncertain. And what do we mean by advanced disciplines? Hyperconnectivity. We're all connected. We're all plugged. I bet you right now that everybody's got at least one of these in your pockets, right? At least one, right? If not 2 or 3. Okay? So we're all hyper-connected. Internet of Things. Everything is on the web. Things are happening on the web. Lots of things are being controlled through the web. The Internet of Things. 3D printing, 3-dimensional printing, which has, I'll show you some examples of this in a minute, but it has reaches that we can still imagine. Robotics, nanotechnologies, biotechnologies, big data, artificial intelligence, which is the scariest one of them all. Okay? All this is intersecting. Where we used to have different disciplines, everything is now intersecting. All the disciplines are working with each other to produce new things. Okay. So that's one of my pet peeves with the school system. I got a 13-year-old, and I really get angry that they are still teaching things in silos. Here's history, here's math, here's things. Life is not that. And the future is even more integrated, more holistic. And that's how we should be teaching our young people, our children, holistic thinking, because that's the future. Okay. Well, it's the present. New models, or evolution of models. For example, okay, you take the hospitality, the lodging model, and you add the Internet of Things, and you add collaboration, and you add democratization of this through the net, and you get Airbnb. Okay? And now, it's a whole different model. It's a huge hospitality and lodgings company, It's twice as valuable as the whole Hilton chain. It's got a market valuation twice that of Hilton, but it's only has 1,600 employees, which is 1% of the workforce of Hilton. And it doesn't own any real estate. Okay. Or you get Uber, taking the traditional taxi and personal transportation business and doing exactly the same thing. And now, Uber operates in more than 60 countries, and it has been being valued at $68 billion. And it only has 12,000 employees worldwide. And now, of course, you got other competing companies coming up like Lyft, which we all know about. But then you also have Didi Xuxing, sorry about that, my Chinese fails, okay? And that's the largest one in China. As a matter of fact, Uber tried to go into China, it failed. It spent like $2 billion trying to get in there, and it failed because of Didi Xuxing. And they are coming up fast. Okay? So these are new business models. This is a quantum leap, taking a very basic, traditional, centuries-old business model and changing it radically, right? Using technologies. Another example. I want to share this one with you. Hold on.
Basically, like a flatbed scanner. That's what you see here on the right side. You see a scanner technology that first scans the wound on the patient, and then it comes back with the print heads, actually printing the layers that you require on the patients themselves. This is how it actually works. Here's a scanner going through, scanning the wound. Once it's scanned, sends information in layers, the correct layers of cells where they need to be. And now you're going to see here a demo of this actually being done in a representative wound. And we actually do this with a gel so that you can lift the gel material. So once those cells are on the patient, they will stick where they need to be. And this is actually new technology still under development. We're also working on more sophisticated printers because in reality, our biggest challenge are the solid organs. I don't know if you realize this, but 90% of the patients on the transplant list are actually waiting for a kidney. Patients are dying every day because we don't have enough of those organs to go around. So this is more challenging. Large organ, vascular, a lot of blood vessel supply, a lot of cells present. So the strategy here is this is actually a CT scan, an X-ray, and we go layer by layer using computerized morphometric imaging analysis and 3D reconstruction to get right down to those patients' own kidneys. We then are able to actually image those, do 360-degree rotation to actually analyze the kidney in its full volumetric characteristics, and we then are able to actually take this information and then scan this in a printing computerized form. So we go layer by layer through the organ, analyzing each layer as we go through the organ, and we then are able to send that information, as you see here, through the computer and actually design the organ for the patient. This actually shows the actual printer, and this actually shows that printing. In fact, we actually have the printer right here. So while we've been talking today, we've actually, you can actually see the printer back here in the backstage. That's actually the actual printer right now, and that's been printing this kidney structure that you see here. It takes about 7 hours to print the kidneys. This is about 3 hours into it now. And Dr. Kang's going to walk on stage right now, and we're actually going to show you one of these kidneys that we printed a little bit earlier today. Put a pair of gloves here. So these gloves are a little bit small on me, but here it is. You can actually see that kidney as it was printed earlier today.
3D printing combined with biotechnologies, combined with nanotechnologies, intersecting, creating organs. Do you know what that means? It means that everybody who needs an organ in the future, in the next 10 years, are going to have absolutely no problem getting an organ developed from their own cells. Just print it. Intersection of disciplines, right? Now, here's something else. Those are all the exciting stuff about the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Now we come to the not so exciting stuff. The part of that's the scary stuff. There's a huge difference between this particular revolution and all the revolutions before. Every revolution before either replaced something with something apparently better, you know, or actually created new things. There were no telephones before. There were no way to play music on a record before, or computers. So these are new models. So that's what's been going on for centuries, for a couple of centuries. But the Fourth Industrial Revolution is actively replacing us. Okay? It is the first time in history where organizations, scientists, and everybody is actively looking for ways to replace people. Either through robotics or through systems like the self-driving cars with Google, and many, many other ways. Now that's kind of scary. It's scary because, let me give you some numbers. In 2017, it's projected that 2,880 retail stores will close just in the US. Why? Because people are buying things online. Amazon is gobbling up everything. And brick and mortar is dying with all the jobs it creates. 30% of all the bank jobs will be lost between 2015 and 2025 due to automation. So our host, kind host, this is something interesting. You know. I mean, here in San Antonio, our own bank, a bank we had in a company, Capital One, just closed all its branches in San Antonio, all of them. There's no longer a physical branch of my bank here. 3.1 million commercial driver jobs will be lost to automated vehicles. We're talking about 3.1 million people that will be out of a job in the next 10 years, who drive trucks or cabs or whatever. And they're already testing them, okay? In San Francisco, in Pennsylvania, in many places, they're already testing self-driving trucks and cars. There's going to be a 21% increase in tech. The same companies that are creating all this, okay? Last year, they had an increase of 21% in their layoffs. And 2017 is going to be even worse. Because they are self-automating their own jobs. It is calculated that about 47% of all the jobs currently existing in developed nations could be lost to automation in the next 25 years. And now, everybody who's a tech cheerleader is very optimistic and say, oh yeah, but just like in other revolutions, new jobs will pop up. And I've sat in panels with people like that. And when I ask them, okay, jobs, what kind of jobs? They say, well, we still don't know. Well, that's cold comfort to all the people who are actually being laid off right now. The millions and millions. Right? So it's like unfounded optimism. This is almost like an article of faith for all the techies. Yes, something will come around and kind of save us all. Provide jobs. And to top it off, something very important, we're moving also into the age, in the age of what we call the third screen, which is part of what's happening with the Internet of Things, marketing, and all the different technologies. What we call the third screen, we had the first screen, which was TV, and it was unidirectional. You just watched it. Then we had the second screen, which was computers, and it was bi-directional. Now you could type things in there and interact. But now we're on the third screen, smartphones. And those are multi-directional. And that's where we're going. If you have a company, or you're a small business owner, or you're a professional, and you want to talk about your product, sell your service or your product, and you're still thinking about the first screen, you're dead. Even if you're thinking about the second screen, you're almost dead. Because everything is moving from commerce, which is almost non-existent now, to e-commerce, but now we're actually in m-commerce. M-commerce is mobile commerce. And now most of the people, when they want to look for a product or service, do it here. They don't go to their computers. They do it here on a tablet. The future is m-commerce, the third screen. And now we're even talking about the fourth screen. Have you been to gas stations where when you're gassing up, they start showing you little clips of information or things like that? Have you been that? Well, what they call the fourth screen is that everywhere you go, there will be screens. Okay. So they'll be prevalent all over the place, and they'll be selling you stuff. Okay. Sorry?
We're not going to have a job.
That's one of the crazy things. If 46% of people get laid off, who's going to be left to buy stuff? That's one of the things. I don't think they're really thinking this through, not really well. So anyway, that's part of it. Now, there's another part that's also being changed because of the fourth industrial revolution. This environment is also changing us as humans. All our technology is coming right back and changing us. And let me tell you, this is a whole different and a whole other subject in itself. Everybody talks about millennials and baby boomers and all that stuff, right? That's not really it. There's always been generational differences. What we're seeing right now is an incredible break in human fundamentals that have been constant for like about over 1,000 years and are changing in less than a generation. The real divide is what we call digital immigrants and digital natives. And digital natives, mark my words, are a whole different human. I live with one. I have a 13-year-old. He's a digital native. Now, we talk about millennials and the changes and everything. Millennials are not digital natives. Most of them were still born before Google and before all that. And their first 4 or 5 very formative years were spent without that. Real digital natives is anybody born after the year 2000. And if we thought that millennials came and changed things, wait until these people hit the market, and hit the workplace. So you got digital immigrants, like myself, who started their professional lives before the web, and we have a whole different set of thinking. Early adopters, like millennials, who were born before the web, but they started adopting the new technologies at a very early age. And then you get the real natives, born with the web. And let me give you an example of the kind of fundamentals that are changing because of everything that's happening in this fourth industrial revolution. When my granddad or your granddad wanted to get information, what did they do? Granddad or grandmother?
Went to the encyclopedia.
Opened up an encyclopedia, or went to the library, or got a trade journal, right? When your dads or moms wanted to gather information, what did they do? Same thing, right? When I started my life, and I wanted to gather information, what did I do? Same thing. And we can go back and look at that, books and that way of gathering information for the last 1,000 years. And information was hard to get, very hard to get. You had to warehouse it because it was so valuable. You know, whenever you saw, I don't know if that happened to you, for all of you digital immigrants, when you found an article that was really good, you photocopied it and put it in a binder because you might need it later on. So it was hard to get that information, very valuable. Nowadays, when a digital native wants to gather information, or whoever wants to gather information, what do? We Google it. Are you aware of the concept of just in time? It's when you get your resources delivered just in time, so you don't have to have a warehouse or anything. and they just deliver them to you when you need them. Well, now information has become a cheap commodity and is delivered just in time. Total change. Another big change, for thousands of years, going to be with your community was a physical thing. When my great-grandfather or my grandfather or my granddad or myself or my grandmother wanted to be with their community, they went somewhere. They went to church, or they went to a bar or a restaurant, and they were with their community. Nowadays, that difference no longer exists. Your community follows you wherever you go. And so on and so forth. So we're facing a new human paradigm originated because of all this. So, what does all this, and again, this is a really complex subject. Today I wanted to break it down just in some of the key points, and I want to also reinforce some of the main aspects that might interest us in our business or in our community life. But what does this mean for markets? Whatever you are, you might be a big, large corporation, or you might be an independent professional, it applies. There are entire new fields being created. You have to really look hard and try to find your niche within the new fields. Because if you don't, you're going to have serious issues in the next 5, 7 years. You got to start looking at everything that's happening, really looking, because, for example, I have a very good friend of mine who owns a travel agency. Who uses travel agencies nowadays? So you got to start looking at that stuff. I have another friend who owns a trucking company, and so on and so forth. So you have to start now seeing, where is my niche? How am I going to evolve my model so I can fit in one of these environments? Because it's no longer sectors, environments. The other thing, forget market segmentation. I was just down in Chile doing a conference on digital natives, and then we had a panel on the fourth industrial revolution, and a person had come also from one of the small business development centers here in the US, and they were talking about market segmentation. Well, when my turn came to talk, I said, well, market segmentation used to work fine. It no longer works. There's so much information out there. It's also personalized. Everybody has access to their own little stuff. What you need to think of nowadays is, in which communities do I want to be? Or what kind of community do I want to create? It's all about communities, online communities. And it's all about personal marketing. It's about conveying your message. I'll give you an example in a minute of what I mean. But that's where it's at. We got to stop thinking in terms of markets. It's all about communities, more and more. Think in terms of the third screen and even the fourth screen. That's where it's at. And marketing trends are changing to a more personalized experience. Digital natives like a personalized experience, but not personal, not human. When digital natives have to have human contact, it's awkward for them. But they want their online experience to be highly personalized. Think communities. You say, oh, my faucet is dripping, right? Has anybody had a dripping faucet before? I think we all have, right? And now, what do you do nowadays? You go to YouTube and say, how do I fix a dripping faucet? Well, the good people at Roto-Rooter must have somebody who's really good at marketing, because if you go there and you start doing this.
To fix most bathroom faucet leaks, turn off both water supply shut-off valves beneath the sink and drain in the remaining water from the faucet. Close the stopper to prevent parts from going down the drain. Pry off the screw covers on the top of the faucet handles and remove the set screws and handles.
So I'm going to cut ahead because we don't need to know right now how to fix a dripping faucet. But they are giving you value, right? They are providing value. But not only that, if you look at this video and the web, they already have over 400,000 hits. So almost 500,000 people have gone in there to Roto-Rooter's little video clip on how to fix a faucet. Talk about beautiful advertising. And plus, they are providing value because nowadays, if you just send information, which of you get like junk mail? Oh yeah, what do you do with it? Immediately. Nowadays, there's so much information that you actually have to provide value if you want to be noticed. Okay? So and you have to create communities. So Roto-Rooter also has their many clips about different things to fix in your house, plumbing. And they say, join us, join our community. And they already have 3Ks, over 300,000 people in their community. So you got over 300,000 people following Roto-Rooter. Okay? And in the end, of course, what they say,
Reliable faucet repair or replacement. Call your licensed and experienced Roto-Rooter plumber.
and then the little jingle that we all know. So that's what we mean, think communities, create communities, work with communities, provide value. That's how you do it in the fourth industrial revolution. What's a personalized experience? Well, I did a little exercise for today's talk. I went and looked at Hugo Boss and Hermenegildo Zegna. I like those guys. They make pretty nice clothing. So I went through the website and everything. And then a little bit later, because I know how the algorithms work, I went and did some searches. And when I was doing my search, guess what came up? I was doing a search for something, and suddenly I had an ad for Hermenegildo Zegna and an ad for Hugo Boss. Okay. Because they knew I had just been in their website. So when I started going online and looking for something else, they continued advertising to me. Personalizing it to me. Yeah. They follow me, yeah. It's a personalized experience. It doesn't require people. It's a personalized online experience. And then when I went back to Hugo Boss, guess what? It said, we have new personal recommendations for you. Shop now. Oh, we remember you. Yeah, you came and you looked for this. Well, we got this all the cool stuff here that you might want to see.
And it gets worse. You know that if you are looking for, let's say, a particular type of shoe or whatever from Ferragamo or whatever, you will get those kind of shoes or that style, the similar styles in that advertising.
Yes.
It is highly specialized nowadays.
Oh yeah.
It's not just
The advantages of being on the internet is that you were exposed to not just your own bubble or your own circle of opinions, whether it's shopping or politics or religion or science or whatever, but now people are using that to further insulate themselves. You know, if you go on enough sites, pretty soon you will only see the things that you like. You won't see anything that's a new thought or a new.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
If you subscribe to a conservative or a liberal news, for example, then all of your news will come from that source, and you will stop seeing anything outside of your bubble unless you go out to look at it. And that ties in with the society of nerds that we're breeding, where no one wants to have personalized interactions.
Yeah.
And so it started out as being something that could expand your mind. Well, here's a thought I never heard before, because it's outside of my normal community. But now I don't like it, so I've blocked it. And pretty soon I only hear the things that conform or the type of clothes. I'm not going to see something from the Gap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Unless you actively go out and look for it.
Look at it. Oh, not everybody's wearing Boss.
Yeah. And this works for everything else, you know. It's customizing, which can get to a point, you know. So anyway, that's some of the thing, okay? That's happening at individual levels. Oh, we don't have the time right now, but for example, there's a great Mexican restaurant here in San Antonio, and I'm just going to use that as an example, called Vida Mia. Very nice, yeah, everybody knows it here in San Antonio, it's very nice. So I went onto the website, and you know what I found? A very nice picture and then text. That's not going to work.
No, nobody reads.
And it just said, you know, change or die. And strangely enough, the slogan was change or die, and then it was all text. And that's it. And then the menu and things like that, but way down there. If you go to the Lama de Lane, the first thing you see is a cup of soup or a sandwich free if you join our community. That's the first thing you see. We're going to give you something. And then join our community. Create communities. Make communities. And very simple, just very simple menus. Take a look. You'll see the difference. Now, what does also mean for communities? Well, some things. First, large corporations are no longer going to be the creators of jobs. As a matter of fact, they're going to be a huge source of what I call, the word doesn't exist, but I call disemployment. We're seeing it now. There used to be a huge advantage for large corporations because they created a lot of jobs and had a high impact. It's not, it's changing, that's changing. They're automating so much and they're getting rid of so many people that it's no longer even an advantage to have a large corporation. Well, it still is, but it's getting lost. It's actually going to become a hassle to have a large corporation in your community. And what does this mean? It means that small businesses are going to have to kick in really hard and take up the slack. Small businesses are the wave of the future if we want to keep healthy communities. It's local businesses, small businesses working in tandem with their community in what we almost in a closed circle, what we call circular economies, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But it's what we call the circular economies. And this is the greater focus on developing local or regional social professional systems. The best response to what all that's happening in the fourth industrial revolution is we have to go back and concentrate on developing regional, professional, business, and social systems that become almost self-sustainable without depending on, the effects of large corporations and large organizations and large government, because it's all tending to what we just saw. Okay. Now, a great model is what we call the circular economy. It's already being tried, is being tried right now in many, many cities. For example, in Spain, in Euskadi, which is the Basque country, in Bilbao, and in many cities, cities in Scotland, and it's mostly being tried out in Europe and some cities in Canada. What the circular economy begins with getting away from the linear economy, which is make, use, dispose. That's how we live. We make, we use, we dispose. A circular economy begins with new design. So you got local entrepreneurs designing products that are designed to last a very long time, number one. And number two, to be almost 100% reusable once they've outlived their usefulness or their life. So you extract the maximum value, because durability, and then you recover and you regenerate almost 100% of the products and materials at the end of each service life. And I can tell you that communities like Bilbao, they are recuperating almost 90% of everything that they no longer use, what we consider trash. And they are recycling it and reusing it. And close to 40% of everything that is being produced and that is being used is starting to be used locally, regionally. We're going back to the small business, to the artisan who creates good products, good services locally. Products that last a long time. No pre-planned obsolescence. Yeah, the guarantee lasts 2 years, and then the 2 years and 1 week into it, it breaks down, right? Okay. This is something that I invite every community to look into, because it is so far the best answer to everything that's happening with the fourth industrial revolution. It's taking advantage of all the new technologies, all the new capabilities that we have at our disposal as individuals, as communities, online, and really use it to generate vital, vibrant, circular economies within our region or city, okay, where everybody feeds off each other. And the final part of this response is collaboration. I don't know if you noticed something, but all this requires collaboration. Okay? Nowadays, it's all about collaboration. Intersectional disciplines means that you have to collaborate with people who think differently than you, If you're a doctor in biomedics, you're talking with an engineer in 3D printing, and you get different cultures, different sciences, different professions. So more than ever, there's a challenge. There's a statistic, 50%, there has been a 50% growth on the time spent by managers and employees in collaborative activities in the last 2 decades. 50%. And you know what? The way we're responding to that is by introducing IT solutions, collaborative software solutions. So it's estimated that for 2015, there was over $70 billion invested by organizations and companies and individuals in collaborative software. And guess what? There's something called the Solow paradox. Robert Solow, a Nobel Prize winner, noted something very interesting. From 1939 to the year 2000, the increase in productivity in the US has been 2.7%. From the year 2000 to the year 2013, it dived to 0.9%. And the only correlation was with the intensive use of information technology. IT has actually created a huge drop in productivity. And not only that, John Fernald, who is the head of San Francisco Federal Reserve, who is the guru in productivity in the US, did a follow-up study, and he found something interesting. He said, not only is that true, but the biggest chunk of the slowdown in productivity is concentrated in either companies that create IT or that use IT intensively. Yes?
Isn't it supposed to be the other way?
That's why it's called the Solow paradox, because supposedly we were implementing all this technology to become more productive, and it's actually destroying productivity.
Because everyone's on Facebook.
Yeah, yes.
How do they measure productivity?
They have the whole complex system, and they are the specialists. I don't have their algorithms and the equations they use, but they have a very specific model to measure individual productivity.
For each person or company?
It's individual productivity within companies. Okay, so how much are individuals being productive within a company? And now, some companies are becoming more productive because they're replacing people. But that's the only reason why. People themselves are not becoming more productive. But you know, for me, which is my field, collaboration, it's not a big surprise. We got video conferencing, WebEx, Basecamp, email, texting, WhatsApp, etc., Twitter and whatnot. But it's not really collaboration, it's just more information. I have a friend, I was just down talking with a future client, and the head of HR was telling me, you know, the CEO decided that we're no longer use email almost at all. We're all going to be communicating through WhatsApp groups. And he showed me his cell phone, which kept pinging, and because he was HR, he was in over 40 WhatsApp groups just for the company. So he was getting constant messages from 40 WhatsApp groups. He just tuned out. He no longer even looked at those things. As a matter of fact, the Harvard Business Review came out with a study called a study that demonstrated that we're in the middle of collaborative overload. And the reason is very simple. We haven't really evolved in the way we look at collaboration. Everything is evolving. We're in the middle of the fourth industrial revolution, but our models of collaboration are still firmly rooted in 50 years ago. So what we have to do now, and what we call collaboration 5.0, which is the only next generation model so far, is to do a big change and stop looking at collaboration as the activity and start focusing on the system behind the activity, the collaboration system itself. Now, what does that mean? So far, if you see it as a system, the system has three big elements. You get the collaboration processes. When you go to a meeting, make phone calls, anything that is required to collaborate, to link individual activity. You got all those processes, right? Then you get the technology required to sustain those processes, your computers, your systems, whatever. And then you get the people who operate both, the process and the technology. Well, guess what? So far, all the advance, all the progress, all the changes in the last incredible quantum changes in the last 20 years have happened here. And their impact has been a multiplication of this. Back in my days, when you needed to collaborate with somebody, you either called them on the phone, or met them in person, or sent them a written memo, and that was it. That was it. Nowadays, we got 70 different ways of communicating with each other. So what we're actually doing with the collaboration system is the total opposite of what we're trying to do with every other system. We're trying to make every system leaner, to make it to trim systems, to make them more efficient, and the collaboration system has just been getting bigger and bigger. Plus, the human part has not even evolved. So if it's a system, we got a lot of proven models for this. Have you heard of Kaizen? Anybody? Yeah. Six Sigma? Yeah, Six Sigma. Okay. These are models for managing systems. Okay. Kaizen is continuous improvement, and it's based on good process brings good results. Speak with data managed by facts. Take action to contain and correct root causes of problems. Kaizen is everybody's business. Six Sigma is a data-driven approach and methodology, and the objective, the end result of Six Sigma, is to have no more than 3.4 defects per million opportunities. It's almost perfection. And a lot of companies work like that in their industrial and their production lines. And then we have the collaboration system, but have you ever seen it as a system, you yourselves? Understood it in your companies as a system? In your groups, in your associations? And because we don't apply all this stuff. Do you notice something similar here? Data-driven, facts, numbers, figures. That's how you manage any high-performance anything. If you take a look at high-performance basketball team or any kind of pro team, every athlete works by their numbers. You know that, right? How many shots you make with the right, how many with the left, how many. They all keep statistics for everything. And based on that, they train. The same happens for anybody who wants to achieve high performance. It's by the numbers. And let me give you an example of what I mean by applying that to the collaboration system. As of last night, my performance was 75. My performance for the week so far, for Wednesday night, was 75.0% effectiveness, 104.8 efficiency, which is an overall performance of 89.9%. And so far for the month, the main source of underperformance of objectives that I didn't achieve or achieve late have been delay on deliverables from clients. And we all know, everybody who collaborates with an organization, we all know this to the day. This is how it looks. Those are my objectives. This is what I'm achieving. That's my performance. These are my graphs. Every day, by the data, by the numbers, analyzing. Have you heard the word, the saying, work smart, not hard? Well, the only way to work smart is to work based on data and analysis and learning. Mindful working. What am I achieving? And everybody working the same. Everybody. I'm the CEO of my company. I do lots of stuff, projects on both sides of the border and South America and all that, and I work with other organizations. How many emails would you guys get per day? From my company, from my teams and everything. Ballpark? 50? Well, on a bad day, 3. 3 emails. How's that? Well, we all are totally in tune. Everybody's totally focused on what they're doing. There's no busy work. There's no deviation. There's total clarity. Everybody's integrated. We all work exactly the same way. They don't need me. Except for what I'm supposed to do. I got my functions. So anyway, in closing, to face the challenge of this fourth industrial revolution, look for participating in those emerging social business systems, okay? Or in the changes happening to traditional industries. There are two kinds of things happening. Like we saw, Airbnb and all those guys are changing models, changing traditional models, or there are whole new models emerging. Okay. 3D printing. In the future, if you're in a factory and one of your pieces breaks down, what are you going to do? You're not going to no longer call the supplier and tell them, send me a part. You're going to print it right there. So what are you going to be selling? You're not going to be selling the parts anymore. You want to be selling the metal powder for the printers. That's where you want to be. Okay? Understand the new behavior patterns of digital natives because they are the future. They're already here. In the future, everybody's going to be a digital native. Okay? So understand those things, those thought patterns, and how they impact in consumers, as workers, as everything. Really get into that. And go beyond the linear consumption model as a community and really look for more closed, sustainable models that don't depend so much on external factors. And it's not just about consumption, but it's about sustainability and collaboration with all the tools at our disposal, both all the new technological tools, and also think very hard about integrating your collaboration systems. Because something else, let me tell you something else that we've seen in supply chains. When everybody in the supply chain has exactly the same collaboration system, the supply chain works beautifully. Or let's say I'm working in this small company or medium-sized company in my community, and I leave and I go and work in another company, and guess what? They both work with the same collaboration model. I just go right in. Or we need to work together, boom, seamlessly. And it also overcomes cultural differences, overcomes all this. Just one more system. In the end, I just want to leave you with this. In the end, the real challenges we're facing is to reaffirm that the central thing that we should be worried about, and the most important thing why all this should be happening, is for people. Not for organizations, not for technology itself or for its own sake. It should be about us as people. Not about replacing us, not about changing us. It should be about enriching our lives. But if we as companies, as individuals, and as communities don't take all those changes, all that technology, and make it happen for the benefit of the community, for the benefit of we as people, then we as humans are going to get lost in the technology and are going to become like a matrix. And that's one of the dangers. But we have so many tools. We as a community have the responsibility to start using them for the community. That's really the message that I want to leave. Okay? And with that, I hope I provide some value today, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you. Thank you.